Hello, welcome to Doer Optimism. I'm going Godward for Doer Optimism, and I'm just over the moon excited to share Jake Hubbard with you all. I have known Jake since he was in second grade, and now what are you, 23, 22, 23?
I'm 23.
Okay. So he's 23 now. Jake and his family were neighbors of mine whenever I was living in Tennessee. We lived there for about 9 years, and I got to watch Jake and his sisters grow up, and his mom is a dear friend of mine. And from a very young age, Jake was interested in farming. I remember he worked for a local dairy farmer for a long time, and Jake was he was an Eagle Scout, just into everything that you would want a future farmer to be involved in at a young age. I just saw a natural gravitation to preserving, conserving, connecting with nature. Jake is someone you could depend on for anything. He's moved some furniture for me. He did all sorts of things. He's just a super wonderful. I want to call him a kid, but he's not. He's a man. He's just incredible, and I'm so thrilled for him and what he's doing with his life now. The Doom Optimism audience will just love what he's doing. He's running a farm, and it's a local farm, and they're producing um,
Yeah,
animals.
yeah. So we produce grass-fed beef. We produce grass-fed lamb. We have two different types of pasture poultry. So we have laying hens, and then we have Cornish cross birds. Those are our meat birds. We have Kiko goats, and we raise heritage bred hogs.
And do you raise any other, like, do you have plants? Do you have corn? Do you have potatoes? Do you have green beans? Do you raise any other food
Yeah,
items?
so we raise a garden for ourselves. However, I just don't think there's enough time in the day to be able to do it at a commercial level.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
We've grown pretty fast in the animal husbandry side of things, and so yeah, maybe one day.
Yeah.
We have an
Okay.
orchard though.
You have an
Um,
orchard. Okay.
yes, we have an orchard. Me and my business partner Nate Wells, he is a doctor, and we're partners on the farm on Brookhaven Farms, and we on by where he's building his house, we planted 450 fruit trees, peach trees, apple trees, cherry trees, and some. Yeah, that's it. So
Okay. So I gave you a little bit of background, and something that I think was really special that Jake said when I first talked to him about maybe coming on Doomer Optimism was, how he kind of his philosophy of farming, kind of how he viewed what he was doing. And he used the word healing. And anyone who, follows me on Twitter knows that I, believe that we are moving toward death or life, toward healing or suffering. And uh, flourishing, the good life is what we all should aim for. So Jake, tell me about kind of your philosophy of farming, why you do what you do, and just kind of your goal for yourself, your land, and what you think other people should aspire to.
yeah, we believe in growing healthy food, and when you grow healthy food that is raised the way that I believe God intended it to be raised, um, it is healthy. And a byproduct of having healthy food is when you eat that, you become healthy. And we started this farm because we had a deep passion for making sure that our families had clean, healthy food to eat. The next biggest thing to me was being able to provide my local community with food that was healthy food that could nourish them, that had actually had nutrients in the food. We have such a nutrient depleted diet nowadays that it is quite alarming. And so that was my main goal, was to grow healthy food for me and my family, my flock that I associate with, and then also give that opportunity to a community that I felt like was desperately needing that. And so that's kind of why how we raise our animals the way we do. I think we're going to get further into that, but yeah, that's the short answer for that.
So when you say when we raise food, when we raise animals the way God intended, to them to
Yeah,
be raised. What do you
yeah.
mean by that?
So let's take a cow and a sheep, for example. A cow and a sheep is a ruminant animal, which means that they have a rumen in their gut. And the only way that they're designed to process nutrients is through that rumen. And God made them herbivores. So that means they eat vegetation. And that's why we are only grass fed. When that cow goes and nips that piece of grass, it goes down and that rumen processes that and abstracts the nutrients out of the grass, and it goes into the cow. Also, on our farm, we have a choreographed ecosystem. So we are just trying to simulate things that were done hundreds of years ago. Bison roamed the prairie. Cows would roam. They would graze. They would move. They were active. And so we rotationally graze to simulate that. And part of that simulation is those cows are going to eat that grass before that grass matures and becomes a seed head, and that's called a grain on the grass. So that's why we don't believe in feeding grain, because our cows, number one, they can't process it through their rumen. It actually damages their rumen. And number two, we don't believe that those cows would ever have the opportunity to eat the grain, because something would always be grazing it over and keep that grass in a younger stage of growth. And so that's one example on we're raising animals the way that God intended them to be. We could also look at the chicken and the hog, for example. The hog has a nose. We call them the bulldozers of our farm. If we put them, if we want to transform an area, we put our hogs in there, and they root and they dig and they wallow. We are embracing the pigginess of that pig, and we want that pig to do the most natural behaviors and tendencies that hog can do. And that's what a hog does. It grubs, it scavenges, it roots, it wallows, and it's a beautiful thing. But you can't have that in a hog barn. You got to have that out in the woods. You got to have that in the field. And so when you raise these animals in a comfortable setting and the most natural way, and you're working with them rather than against them, it's a beautiful thing.
Mhm. So what I'm hearing you say, what I'm understanding you're saying is if you're raising a pig for slaughter, you want them to be raised in a way that's most natural for them to exist because that's going to produce the highest quality product.
Yes, and that and their diet as well. So
Mhm.
we talked about the cows being a herbivore, like a chicken and a hog. They're omnivores. They're the only two animals on our farm that we supplement with some grain, with some feed. It's a non-GMO feed, and it comes from a Mennonite farm up in Northern Virginia, and it's the most natural grain that you can feed. I'd say 98% of people in America, if you tested their blood, they would have glyphosate in their blood. And what that is from is spraying Roundup on the corn and then harvesting the corn, feeding it to the animals, and then you digesting that meat, and it gets in your bloodstream. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want anything in my bloodstream that can kill a bunch of weeds. So, but that's just me. You guys pour it to it if you don't want to. But I don't want anything that can kill something in my blood. So
No,
that's why
I
we
hear
do
you.
a
I
clean
I
feed.
don't want that either. Yeah,
Nah,
that's smart, Jake.
yeah,
So so going back to just like your background as a kid, I
yeah,
watched you work at a dairy farm. Like I remember you were doing that a lot in high school.
yeah,
Um, and I know that you've always had that animal husbandry urge. Like that's like your impulse. That's like your natural state of being is to do that. So I'm curious because I'm hearing you use a lot of like scientific information about nutrition, about way our bodies work, the way that animals exist in the world and what they need. And I'm wondering how you went from Jake, the teenage dairy farmer, to having all this knowledge and how that all came together for you. What did you I know you went to school in Virginia. Like was
yeah,
it something that happened in college? Like how did all this come? Because you're pretty young to be doing all this. Like it's pretty
yeah,
remarkable. There are people in their 40s who are just getting started, and you're like, oh, I'm 23. I'm like, living the dream already. So like,
yeah.
how did this all come to happen for you?
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. So I went to University High School, which is it's a it's a choice school, and it's known for their academics. And so my mom made me go there. I didn't really want to go there at first, but
I remember all this, Jay. I remember you
yeah,
came and you're like, "Oh, I know how to write emails or
yeah,
something." Yeah, I
it
remember all
was.
that. Yeah.
I struggled profusely trying to pass, and it's all I could do to have a high enough GPA to play ball. That's all I cared about. And so I did that, and I always farmed. I love showing cows. I love working with my hands. I loved being meaningful. I loved having a purpose. I loved looking back at the end of the day and getting something done. I call him my Uncle Mike. He was the owner of the dairy farm. We're not blood, but we're just about blood. And he taught me how to work hard on a farm, and how on a farm no one's going to come bail you out. And I think I fell in love with that, being independent in that form. So I went to high school. I farmed in high school, and then I decided to go to Southern Virginia University and play football and get a degree in biology. I was going to be a vet. I always knew that I wanted to do something in agriculture, but I was always told by the people around me in my local community that you're never going to make any money farming. Farming is something that rich people use for tax write-offs, and that's what all I was heard. You can't make a living doing it. So I decided I was going to be a vet, and I was going to make a bunch of money, and I was going to be able to hang out with cows all day. I just wanted to be a cowboy, and like every little boy does. And so I went to college, and it was my second year. I was going into my junior year, and I was lost. I didn't know. I wasn't sure if I could take another 6 years of school. I'm not sure if I was able to take on the financial burden of going to vet school. There was all these things that was running through my mind, and I was praying and praying and praying and praying on what to do. I was thinking about transferring schools. I was lost, and I'll never forget. It was August the 14th, 2020. I was working at a construction during the summertime, and I got a text from a longtime family friend that said, "Hey Jake, what do you want to be when you grow up?" And I texted back and I said, "I honestly just want to play cowboy all day, but I'm not really sure. I'm struggling with that right now." And it was Nate Wells, my future, my present and future and present religious mentor.
Mhm,
He preaches at our church, and
mhm,
so we talked and talked and talked. And in order to make this happen in this timeline, I had to take 21 credits for 3 semesters to graduate early, because that's when we wanted to start the farm. Was in a year and a half. So we looked at
mhm.
different farms and so on. And I didn't really know much about regenerative at that time. Um, Nate, he knew a lot more about it, and so he was introducing me to these topics, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I learned about that in school," and everything kind of started clicking. Oh yeah, I never knew why we didn't do that on the dairy, or when I was growing up, it was just a different way of farming, and it just all started to click. And I
Yeah.
felt like the Lord has guided me throughout my whole life to be ready for this one time, this one period in my life there I was going to get to live my dream. And for a first generation farmer in my family to be able to go out and farm. And my business partner, he wears many hats, and he didn't have time to do the labor, um, but he could afford to help me start a farm. I couldn't afford to start a farm, but I could do the labor.
Mhm.
So it was a really good relationship that we started there when I was in college, and I got out. I graduated early, a year early, and we hit the ground running. And I'm just trying to learn. I spent some time learning from Joel Salatin up in Swoop, Virginia. It was 20 minutes from my school. I don't feel like that was a mistake, that I got to learn from
Mm-mm.
the godfather of regenerative agriculture. And I've traveled around the country, investing in myself to try to learn ways where agriculture can heal the earth, heal the people around you, and also be profitable. Um, I think a lot of things we do are fighting against nature, and fighting against the the way that the animals are meant to be. A lot of times we create problems that aren't necessary, that we could.
Mhm.
So that's a little. I hope I summed everything up. Hope I'm not
No,
forgetting.
that was beautiful. That was wonderful. Um, so I guess So Joe was a huge influence on you in
Yeah.
terms of just gaining knowledge and learning how to apply what you know. Um, is there anyone else that stands out here? Or would you say that's like the biggest influence you've had in terms
Um,
of learning, teaching?
Farming, it was definitely Uncle Mike. He was definitely the farming influence in my life. My mom and dad. I think in order to be a farmer, you have to be disciplined and you have to be hardworking. And as I was a kid, my mom and dad, they're some of the hardest workers I know. They absolutely get after it every day. Doesn't matter
Yes,
how they
that's true.
feel.
Can
And
tell I can attest to that. That's true.
yeah,
Yes.
they're some hard workers, and
Mhm,
really my whole family is. And then I feel like my greatest blessing in my entire life is to have great mentors. No
mhm,
matter where I go or what I do, I always have people in my life that are there to help me, and
mhm,
I'm smart enough just to shut my mouth and listen. So I attribute a lot of success that I've had to
yeah,
them, and that's who's really just kind of taught me. But a lot of it has just been me having, a lot of failure. I've had to experience a lot of that because when a farmer messes up, things die, and
mhm,
the lows of farming are low, but the highs are super high,
mhm,
and so yeah, that's what's kind of
mhm.
influenced me.
Yeah, and it sounds like, you're benefiting your local community with what you're doing. So I think y'all sell at Troyer's Mountain. Is that where y'all? Yeah.
Yeah, so we sell to Troyer's Mountain View
Mhm,
Market. They
mhm,
are a Mennonite store, I think, at heart. We sell to them. We also sell to SC Soccer Team in Nashville. It's their pro soccer team. They want their athletes eating the most nutrient dense food possible, proteins. So we provide meat to them. We also sell to the Ridges Blackthorn Country Club.
mhm, yeah,
Uh,
mhm,
it's a golf course there. It's pretty well known. We sell to them in a few markets around locally. We just started the farmers markets this year, so we've had pretty good success. Last Saturday was our first Saturday, and we're looking forward to a lot more success throughout the season.
mhm,
And really, what our market is are consumers. We are looking for like-minded individuals that want to feed their family something nutrient dense that is gonna make them feel better and be healthier and in an alternative be happy. And so that's what we're looking for. And it's not like we need 5 million people. We
mhm,
just need, maybe 1,000 people
mhm,
to
mhm.
to um, dedicate themselves to making the choice to um, eat this way and to be aware of what they're putting in their bodies and what they're putting in their children's bodies, really.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Message out, like, say is the number one way or the best way to convince people, "Hey, this is preferable. Like, what we're doing here, this is the way it should be. This is going to lead to, like you said, healthier and happier lives. This is going to lead to greater flourishing, for the individual and for a community, for a family." Like, how do you kind of evangelize people, about what you're doing?
Well, I think there's a few different ways you can do that. I think to a lot of people, it's going to be the taste. There's going to be a massive taste difference. I don't think most people know what chicken tastes like until they eat a chicken that is raised the way we raise them. We move them every day, fresh grass and sunshine and clean water, and so there's taste, and then you can talk about the nutrient difference. So, for example, our body craves nutrients. So, if you ever crave a pizza, just like you are absolutely craving a pizza, you're not craving that pizza. You're craving the zinc that's in the tomato sauce. So, our body craves nutrients. And when you eat our food, you don't have to eat as much because it's nutrient dense, and your body absorbs those nutrients and you feel so much better. The third reason is why I think we try to pull people into us is it all comes down to knowing your farmer,
Mhm,
knowing
mhm,
where your food comes from. Because you cannot tell me that food is healthy or unhealthy unless you have a personal relationship with the person growing that food. You've been to their farm. We invite everybody. Come to our farm anytime. We're open 24/7, 365, and see how our animals are raised, see how we raise our animals. We are very much so Christian, and we believe that we are to be stewards of the land. And that's not just going out there and dumping a bucket of feed. It's to make sure that that animal is comfortable and happy, and it's our obligation when you call yourself a farmer to ensure that those animals are healthy and happy. And it's probably one of the most beautiful professions, because I don't know many professions you can make that many souls happy every day.
I
And
love
so,
that. I love
yeah,
that. I love
and
that, Jake.
it's beautiful. And so, yeah, that's kind of the three or four ways how
Yeah.
I try to approach people and tell them, it's like, hey, you start feeding your family this food, and I promise you that we do everything in our power to ensure that your family, that you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about where your food's come from, or what's being done to it. We take all those measures so you don't have to.
Yeah. I think that's great. So how far have you spread the word? Like I know you're at Troy's Mountain. You named some consumers,
Yeah.
some people you sell to. Like, what's the radius you would say that you serve?
Oh goodness, I think it just varies. I feel like we're just so new. I feel like
Yeah.
I feel like 10 people know about us.
I feel like it's
And
more than that.
yeah, it might be a little bit more, but still, I just don't think a lot of people know about us, and that's why we do things like this.
Mhm.
But we do sell to Nashville. I'd say it's a few hundred miles away. We do ship. Um,
Mhm.
we have shipped to Sedona, Arizona, and so we do have those possibilities. However, it's going to cost a bit more for shipping and freight. But
Mhm.
in all reality, I just don't think that many people know about us as a whole.
Mhm.
We're working on a home. Oh, this is a little early plug, but we're doing a homesteading and Regen festival coming in the fall, and we're going to be talking about everything homesteading. It's going to be in September. We're going to try to pull in some big speakers in that sphere,
I'll
and
probably hit you up.
yeah, it sounds good. And we're going to be having chicken processing, canning,
Okay.
sourdough making, milking cows, making butter. We're going to roast a
So
whole
good.
hog. We're going to rotisserie chickens. We're going to have bluegrass music, and we're going to have speakers. Um, so many different classes. And just, I think there's such a need for people wanting to be able to grow their own food. And
Mhm.
just because we get 150 dozen eggs a day and we're going to raise 10,000 meat birds this year doesn't mean that you cannot do it in your backyard. If
Yep.
you have 1 acre, you can raise 772 meat birds. And so if you had a quarter acre, you could feed your family. And I encourage everyone to do that, because I can't feed
Mhm.
everybody. I feel like everybody should eat this way. I'm
Mhm.
not big ag. My main goal is to decentralize agriculture so that everyone has a few chickens, everybody has a few meat birds, everyone has a hog that they are rotating around in their backyard. And what you don't have, that you source from people that you trust, and just being self sufficient. Because if we rely on big ag for our food on this course, they are not sustainable. Um, and we can get into that further. However, their practices is, for better words, putting lipstick on a pig. It's only going to last for so long. And when it started back in the 70s, when there was a mass need for calories, we needed to figure out a way to feed America and feed it in a hurry. And so we created what's now known as big ag, right? So, and now there's just a few companies that control that atmosphere.
That's right. That's right.
And so, but anyway, yeah, we can get into labeling and all that stuff, just
So,
whatever.
we might do that at the end, because I'm thinking where that could lead. But I'm also curious, how many people does it take to run what you're doing? Like, I know it's you and Nate.
Yeah. So it's me and Nate. We're kind of the drivers of it, but we couldn't do it
Mhm.
by ourselves. We have one employee that works full time on the farm. and then just our family. My wife Jordan, she helps a lot when she
Mhm.
gets off work, and so that's nice. But in all reality, you know, it's me and one other guy that's full time on the farm, and then Nate, and then just his family, and just my family when they can. We always take help when we need it most. We have angels that show up and help us when we need
Yeah.
it most, and
Mhm. Mhm.
that's just. But really, it's just two of us that run the day to day, and then
Yeah.
Nate. He's really good at making connections for us, and he does so much behind the scenes that we couldn't do it without him.
Yeah.
So.
What do you see the future of Brookhaven? Like, where is it going? What's it gonna do?
So Brookhaven Farms is going to be the driving force. I think one of the biggest driving force in the country for regenerative ag and providing local food. I see a lot of potential for it becoming almost a franchise farm, as
Mm.
in we create a market for people to be able to market their goods, so they can, as long as they grow their animals the way we raise them and we mentor them and raising those food, then we will supply the market and they can sell under our name. Um,
Mhm.
I also see Brookhaven Farms kind of being a one stop shop. We want to do raw dairy, and we want to have a creamery. We want to have a family farm to table restaurant. We want to have wedding venues. We want to be a destination.
Mhm.
Um, More than anything, just to educate people and
Mhm.
to let them know that you can do this. You can farm.
Mhm.
It it takes some effort and it takes some willpower, but you can do it. And I feel like as time goes on, that's going to be more critical. I think
Mhm.
I think there's a time and place where people will be trading their Lamborghinis for cows, but I don't know when that's going to be. But I just feel like there's a shift happening.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I think so too, and I think that's one reason, like, the Doomer Optimist crowd has kind of been that why they've been successful is that people are going, "Something is not right. We don't the way this is being done is it doesn't feel right, it doesn't seem right. We've been duped, we've been tricked," kind of they feel like something's happened, and how can we kind of take back control of of our life in this way? And I like the thoughts of kind of bringing everyone around this cause and bringing everyone in, educating them, like you were saying, like you want this to be like an educational experience for people, when they
absolutely,
participate with your farm.
absolutely, we
Yeah.
want to educate people. We want to provide you know seed stock, so the proper animals. We want to show people how. I mean, there's so many things that go into regenerative agriculture. As in the fencing and how the animals, how the relationships have to be in line. An interesting fact is sheep eat parasites that kill cows. They're a dead end. So when a sheep grazes in front of a cow, they eat the parasite that's going to harm the cow. The cow eats the parasite that's going to harm the sheep. And then we move our chickens in behind them, and they're a dead end parasite for everything. So, that really helps the microbiology of our pastures and of our fields and keeps our animals healthier. We don't
Yeah.
use fly spray. We don't vaccinate any of our animals, but we do a lot of preventative. We work really really hard to try to prevent those things, and you
Sure.
can if that animal is raised, if that animal's healthy. Um,
Mhm.
a lot of feedlots, they're just trying to get that animal to survive until slaughter date, and I doubt those cows live past 3 years old. Um, you know,
Mm.
most grass-fed cows, they'll live over 20. So, if you look at just that data, you can see a big difference.
Does it break your heart to see people farm in a way that's bordering, if not cruel, to animals? I mean, does it break your heart? Because the way that you're describing some of these farming with the cows, they're just trying to get them to the slaughter date or, whatever, chickens. I mean, I grew up, and this is something that I feel. I don't know if angry or anger is the term, but I grew up in a town where mass chicken farming was going on. I mean, chicken houses, hundreds and hundreds of chickens. A lot of them suffocate to death because the house is so full. and it's just fattening them up, getting them ready for slaughter. There's no real, there's no real thought that this is an animal, like this is something that God made. Like, how should we steward this chicken's life well, and I just remember being really bothered by how they were being raised. And I just wonder if you ever experienced that. Do you ever just feel like kind of heartbreak over those types of
Ye-
decisions?
I do. I do. I have a lot of dear friends and family members that farm that way, unfortunately. And, when I try to talk to them about it, they say, well, Jake, how else are we going to feed the world? How
Mm,
are we going to feed the world on a large scale without raising animals this way? And it's a really hard answer for me to give them, but everyone's got to have a few chickens in their backyard, and everyone's got to kind of pull together and work with one another to heal the ground back. We have
mm,
to fix the microbiology in the ground. All these things these farmers are doing are hurting the ground. When you put fertilizer on your ground, you're not fertilizing, you're not fixing the fungi and bacteria in the soil. You're just almost like hydroponics. You're just
mm,
creating an environment in order for a plant to be successful. You're not fixing the root problem. People spray the weeds, that kills all your organic matter in your fields, and you never can fix it. All a weed is just indication of poor soil fertility. And but yes, to answer your question, it's disheartening. Um,
mhm.
it breaks my heart. Some of these massive feedlots, you see cows out there dying of heat stroke. Um, it's disheartening that that animal didn't have the opportunity to do what it was intended to do.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
they have teeth for a reason.
yeah, yeah. I was just thinking about just what animal husbandry looks like, that kind of thing. I had another thought and it has left me, but um, oh, I know what I was going to say. When you were saying, how are we going to feed the world if we don't farm like this? And I think that's part of the mentality that is kind of wrong. Like, don't worry about feeding the world. Like, your responsibility is to feed those in closest proximity to you. I love the idea that you have a moral obligation to those in closest physical proximity to you. So your family, your local community. And I think that we kind of live in this world where we've been conditioned to think on a global scale rather than on a smaller scale, like a local scale. And I think that's part of the education process is
Yeah.
helping people to like rethink you're not responsible for the world, you're responsible for this right here.
Yes, that's exactly right. And I think it starts with me. It's my job to educate people, but I feel like a lot of the burden also feel falls on the consumer. Um, you don't know how many people that I talk to on a daily basis that are like, "Yeah, Jake, we're rooting you on. You're a young farmer trying to do it. You're different. You're trying to change the way farming's done." But when they leave, they go to Walmart, buy a Tyson chicken, and it's just like I
Point.
I'm not going to be able to do what I'm doing for very
Yeah.
long if the people don't support your local farmers. And if it's not
Yeah.
me, go find somebody in your community
Yeah.
that's trying to raise animals like I am and buy from them. Yeah,
Mm,
it might be $1 more a pound, but you have to think of the value. So, what do you value in your life? Do you value your health, your body, or do you value a new iPhone?
mm,
Or whatever it may be in your life that you value more than your health or your children's health
yeah.
or the food that you put in your body. So I think it starts with me with educating people, but you also it falls to the consumer to not buy from Big Ag. You
Yeah.
know, it's going to take a little bit more work to buy from your farmer because it's not going to be at Walmart
Mhm.
most of the time. But anyway, I think it's important to have a lot of these small markets where people have the opportunity to go buy locally
Yeah.
and not just locally, but raised in a healthy, humane way.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean, I'm fortunate to live in an area where that is available. There are a lot of
thank-
local farmers that I can buy milk from. I mean, all my meat comes from local source. It's locally sourced, and I'm fortunate. But I think you're right. I think more people are going to have to adopt this way of farming, and more people are going to have to change their mindset that there's greater value in knowing your farmer, knowing where your food comes from, knowing that it's like you said, you don't want to put something that's going to kill you into your
Yeah,
body.
it's
Uh,
crazy.
yeah, it's wild. I just really admire what you're doing, Jake. I think it's you know I want to say I could have predicted this about your life, but I mean you're doing what I think you've always. I feel like a hog is supposed to go root around in the forest. I feel like you are doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. I feel like you're doing like the natural thing to you. So I just you know
Well,
think you're doing great. So kind of like moving toward the end of this, um, in in the Doomer optimism world, we try to ask like what's your Doomer take and what's your optimism take, and you talked a little bit about big ag, and I just wonder if your Doomer take pertains to big ag at all.
yeah, I think so. It has a lot to do with it. I feel like my doomer thing would be that big ag is just not sustainable. Um, if it's not, it might be sustainable during my lifetime, but it's not going to be sustainable for my kids and my grandkids.
Mhm.
So the food system's going to break, and I think there's a lot of flaws with that. I think it all goes back to knowing where your food's coming from. Most of our meat in America comes from overseas, and just because they throw it in another package, they can put product of the USA on it.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of things that have to be fixed there. We're not going to have very much topsoil left if we keep spraying it with a bunch of chemicals. So we're going to be starving. Um, and just big ag as a whole, I understand the people that are in it, and I respect they're just doing all they know to do. Um, but we got to educate them. We got to show them
Mhm.
there's a better way. And then my
Mhm.
optimism side of things would be the beautiful thing is that Mother Nature wants to fix itself. You just got to be a steward of her, and you got to help her out, and you have to put the things on the ground that the ground needs, and the ground needs animals. God didn't create them to live in an apartment. They have to be out on the grass, and they have to be out in the field, and they have to be doing what they're intended to do. And I feel like the optimism part of it is you can buy from your local farmer. You can be a good in this fight, and you can help us fight against this. And all you have to do is know your farmer and know that it's healthy food, buy local, and then be loyal to that farmer and help them. And because it means the world, to a farmer
Mhm.
like me, when somebody comes and buys something from me, it gives me hope that I'm going to be able to do this. It costs a lot of money to run a farm, and
Mhm.
uh, and it's really hard. It is scary and it is terrifying. But if people would just buy from the local farmers and support them and get behind them and limp them along. And I think if they can find healthy, clean food and from a local farmer, do it. You won't regret it. It might cost you a few more dollars, but it's going to help you and your family more than anything. So
And I feel like doing that, you're participating. Like I said, if I go buy from you, I'm participating in this regenerative process. Like
absolutely,
I'm part of that just as a consumer.
yes,
And so I think, if some people are like, okay, well, I'm not ready to start raising my own chickens, just buying from someone like you
yeah,
builds up this movement, builds up regenerative farming. Yeah.
absolutely. And I would,
Mhm.
and if see, if everyone had time to go be a full time farmer, I wouldn't have a job. So I understand that some people it's just not their thing. However, like you said, they can be part of this movement and they can be part of this good thing that we're trying to cultivate
Mhm.
by just supporting us and supporting local farmers and knowing your farmer. I can't emphasize
Yeah.
that enough. If you don't know your farmer personally, then you really don't know where your food's coming from. There's a lot of jokers out there that say they're a lot of things,
Mhm.
uh, but you don't know what they are until you go to their farm, you see what they're doing, and but anyway, yeah, that's kind of my hot take on it. And I could
No,
talk
I
to you
love it.
all,
I love it.
I, I could talk to you all night about it because I'm really passionate about it, and I care a lot about it, and I feel like it's a really important thing that people needs to wake up and see. Um, it's unfortunate that we've gotten our food system this far ahead of us. You know, the average cattle size was, um, you know, the cow size was a third of the size in the 70s. The cow size was a third of what they weigh now. So they weigh
Mm.
double what they weigh now to then. And it's just, it's a bad thing. They're not healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of like stewardship. You know, you're stewarding the land, you're stewarding the animals, you're stewarding your community, your own body, your own self, and you're ultimately like your soul. I mean, this is all like about stewardship, and I think it's really beautiful. I want Brookhaven to want to like shout it from the rooftops. Everybody, check it out. And I'm sure that we have a lot of listeners who are in your region. You're in like Southeast Tennessee, or well, not Southeast Tennessee. Yeah, Southeast. No,
Northeast
Northeast
Tennessee,
Tennessee, Southwest
Southwest Virginia.
Virginia, Southeast
Yeah,
Virginia. Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, I'm
That's
sorry.
us.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Tennessee
No, you're
Valley,
fine.
the region.
You're
'Cause
fine.
I just
Yeah,
butchered it.
yeah. We're in that region. We're in that region. It's fine.
Okay.
But yeah, anybody that'd like to support us, brookhavenfarms.net. We have a YouTube channel, Brookhaven Farms, and
You have an
Facebook.
Instagram.
We have an Instagram, Brookhaven Farms, and
Mhm.
everything. So go support us, follow along with us. Try to post. I'll try to post some more videos. It's been a crazy time. We've been kicked in the teeth a few times this spring, but we're back up and fighting, and we're excited for what's to come.
What's an example of getting kicked in the teeth? Like, what would that look
Um,
like?
so last week, our freezer quit working, and we lost about $60,000 of product.
That's
And
rough.
for a young farmer and a business that is trying to be successful, you take a financial hit, but you also take a emotional hit.
Mhm.
For example, my past 2 days, I left yesterday night and I drove 5 hours to the processor. I drove through the night, picked up the processed birds with the freezer trailer, drove back to East Tennessee. Then I drove 2 hours to Abingdon, Virginia, picked up some hogs, and I left about 24 hours ago, and I got home about an hour ago, making deliveries and things like that. So farming's hard, and sometimes you just get down, and then you'll be up working at sunrise, and you'll see a calf born, and it's the most beautiful thing, and it makes every moment worth it. I heard a quote today in the Chinese language: "Crisis can be bad, but it also means opportunity." And so, if you can navigate the storm and get through it, good things are always on the other side. So I encourage anybody that's farming, that's having a hard time, just to keep your head down and keep working and stay positive and keep going, and good times are on their way. So,
Mhm. Well, Jake, I just appreciate you. I mean, now that I know that you've been doing this for the last 2 days, I'm like, "Oh, I'm just ready to come here and
no,
finally
it's
made it."
fine.
And it's just so good to reconnect. Everybody that's
Yeah,
watching and listening, I wish I can't convey to you the affection I have for Jake and his family. I mean, little Jake, second grade, picking him up, taking him to basketball practice, making
yep.
we just came over to our house like every single day. We had
She,
snacks, we cooked. I
yep.
made the
She
chicken
cooked me
noodle soup.
breakfast. I can't count how many times she's made me breakfast and picked me up from school every day and brought me home and took me to Dairy Queen and always let me have a diet Dr Pepper and just treated me
We
like
had some
gold.
good times. We had some good
Absolutely.
times.
And
We did. I mean, those were sweet memories for me, like just being with y'all. So there were a couple of times I look back and I'm like, oh gosh, I lost my cool a couple of times and I feel real bad about it. Sorry,
hey,
Jake.
it
I'm sorry.
happens.
We forgive
I
you.
understand
Okay.
now. You probably should have lost your cool a lot more, me and Abel,
But
for
y'all
sure.
were wonderful. Y'all were precious. You're so dear to me. Your mom and daddy are precious to me. And I'm just so excited that you are doing what you're doing. I think it's just so perfect, and I want to get your name out there. I want to get Brookhaven out there. I want people to invest in what you're doing promote you. I'm excited about the homesteading and regenerative ag festival. I think that's
Yeah,
a brilliant idea. I think that's going to be
yeah,
so good.
yeah. Stay
Yeah.
tuned on our social medias. We're gonna
Hmm.
be it's gonna be a ticketed event.
Hmm.
So you buy a ticket, and we're still deciding if that comes with food or you're gonna have to purchase the food separately. And then we're gonna
Okay.
have workshops demonstrating on how to farm on a small scale and how to be self sufficient and how to be sustainable and how to be a good steward and all those different things. We're super excited, and we also ship, so we can ship on the East Coast. And
Hmm.
if you're ever needing a good outlet for some clean, healthy food, you can email me at jake@brookhavenfarms.net, and I'd love to help take care of you.
I
And
think that's great.
just so excited. Thank you so much for having
No,
me.
it's thank
Allowing me
you.
to
I mean,
speak
it's just great. I'm so
on
happy
this.
that you were able to do this.
It's a wonderful topic.
Everybody that's watching this, Jake's info will be in below the links, or the links will be for like his Instagram, all his socials, their website, and then Jake's email too if you want to reach out to him personally. Jake, thank you so much. This
Thank
was
you so
wonderful.
much.